Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our state technical committee. The format this time is a bit different than our typical format. This time we're gonna get to hear what our partners are up to, and as they get to share out on some of their projects and reportables, some that we have been involved in, some are just of interest to us and that we're collaborating with in other ways. Um, NRCS and conservation across PIA is nothing without the partnership. And I just can't say enough how much we appreciate the time that all of you, and the time and effort that all of you put into participating in these meetings, working with us, working with our producers, and helping us move the needle on creating those resilient islands, clean and abundant water, healthy soils, and thriving ag communities. And with that, I will give it back to Susan to lead us through some of the presentations for today. Thank you so much, everybody.
So we do actually have Shay on. Sherry, would you like to go, or would you like to have Craig go first, or you're ready to go? You're on mute. Yeah.
Sure, I'm happy to go.
Okay. So the sharing the screen, you just use the arrow, and then you select the screen. And I don't know if Jill is on. Jill, you're our easement specialist. Would you like to give an introduction to Shay and HILT? Just a real quick, and I'm putting you on the spot. So Michael knows ahead he's going to have to do this for Craig, but just a few words, Jill, if you don't mind.
Hi, Susan. Thank you. Well, I do have to give the credit for the last quarter or so to Mandy Chen, who's been stepping in behind me, and she has really filled in a gap that I've been unable to kind of focus a lot of my attention. But so thank you to Mandy. I will be stepping back full time as the ASAP manager very soon. But it's been a great 2.5+ years as me as the primary ASAP manager. And I'm very, very excited to hear Shay's report, because we have a monumental success that we're all very, very proud of, and hope it's just the first of many. So as we get this program kind of underway and gaining steam in PIA, I hope it sparks interest amongst a lot of you, and you are excited to hear about the ASAP AL successes that are happening and occurring and continue to occur. So thank you, Susan, and thank you everybody for attending. And I'm going to let Shay move ahead with her presentation.
All right, Shay, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much. I am to share screen, and it does note that I have bad connection on my end. So anyone? Yeah.
You do. You might want to. You could turn off your video. That sometimes helps. Just lowers the bandwidth.
Can you guys hear me a little better now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I am. Let me just close this up for us. All right. I know, no worries. You can't see me on video, because here I am right here in the middle with Jill to my right, and former in Jill's position, Paul Lake to my left. And this is a great photo that we took together on the steps of the federal building in Hilo on Hawaii Island, to just get together during COVID and really monument our HILT and NRCS's partnership and program agreement that HILT was able to secure specifically for the ASAP ALE projects. And it's just like just generally, Hawaii Land Trust has 3 strategic priorities that we focus on when we look at protecting lands in perpetuity. And so the first is we protect coastlines. Second is the protection of wahi kupuna, or Hawaiian cultural landscapes. And the third is protecting lands that grow healthy food for local families. And so Hawaii Land Trust and our partnership with USDA NRCS is so huge in really helping us have that capacity to protect our agricultural lands in Hawaii. And that ASEP-L program agreement that HILT entered into 2 years ago, it essentially just pre-vets HILT as a land trust to hold conservation easements, and it makes applying for agricultural easements much smoother. And I wanted to just run through the projects that we've secured funding for agricultural easements through this USDA NRCS ASEP-L program. And let's see, so I'll start us off with Kahumana Farms. I'm sure a lot of you guys heard about Kahumana, might have eaten at their cafe, or maybe even got one of their CSA boxes or are subscribers. But Kahumana Farms was able to expand their farming operations and purchase 24 acres of land just down the street from their headquarters in Waianae Valley on the island of Oahu, and partnered with Hawaii Land Trust to raise funds to purchase the an agricultural easement. And these lands, this is the farm expansion that you're looking at in both photos with their farm manager, Christian Zuckerman. And really exciting for this project is we've carved out a building envelope in this easement to allow for Kahumana Farms to put up farm worker housing to actually provide housing for their workers to farm the rest of this this land and property here. Really excited for this project to close. We're aiming for the end of 2021, but there's a little details that we have to wrap up. And so we'll be literally closing any day now. So this is huge. We're really excited to close. This will be the first agricultural easement that we're closing through this ASEP-ALE program. And from what I understand, it's one of the first easements that USDA has closed in the, or added to their acreage in Hawaii in the last 10 years. This momentum and really just being able to see the capacity that it brings to Kahumana. And here's a map to kind of acquaint us. So this is where we are on the island of Oahu, where Kahumana Farms is. And this is just a street map, and this red outline shows the what the border of the agricultural easement is, protecting 24 acres of land. Our next project that we're also really excited that we got funding for is on the island of Maui, on the east side in Keanai. And so Keanai is a peninsula, and I'll just fast forward to the map here so you guys can see where we are. So on the island of Maui, we're out, halfway to Hana in Keanai and this peninsula. And I'm sure a lot of you know, but for those who might not, Keanai is a very rich soils for farming taro and wetland taro specifically. So you can see in the aerial photo here, there's just like wetland lo'i surrounding. And this particular TMK parcel is the largest TMK on the entire peninsula. It is home to one of the lo'i of Chief Keanai, so there is beautiful historical significance. And so this is one of HILT's, this is actually our organization's, or the Land Trust's longest agricultural easement projects that hasn't closed, and we've finally secured NRCS ASEP funding, which matches state funding support that we received from Legacy Land Conservation Program a few years ago. So really excited to finally have the funds to move to our private fundraising phase of this project and close hopefully in 2022. And an interesting aspect for this project, I'd say, is HILT is discussing with the landowner ways to provide capacity to them to really ensure that these lands are actively stewarded by the community and by the local families of KNI. And another project that we were awarded funding for is on the island of the Big Island, or Hawaii Island. It's Kaihoku Farms, and I'm sure a lot of you might know them, but it's the Babers. So partnership with Gail and Clarence Baber. They purchased years back 20 acres in Kohala on Hawaii Island to kind of start farming on their own land, and this agricultural easement is really important for them to be able to keep this land in active ag and from being further subdivided, and that typical story that we hear. And so hopefully we'll be able to close this project with them in 2022 as well. And so let's see, the next, here's a map of where Gail and Clarence's farm is located in Kohala. So we're on the island of Hawaii on the north here in Kohala. And their property is actually, you can't totally tell, but it's on this really beautiful, actually on this satellite image here. It's kind of like on a bluff in between two ravines and streams. So such an important location of lands to protect for, not just soil quality, but for water quality as well, because that all just runs out to the ocean there. Another exciting project that we got funded through this NRCS ASEP-L program, very close nearby the Babers farm, is this 28-acre property that Island Harvest was able to purchase, just about last year. Island Harvest is a macadamia nut farming and producing company, and they lease all of the lands that they grow their mac nuts on. A really beautiful story. The Trump family was able to kind of secure the leases of old sugarcane plantation lands when, years and years and years ago, when the sugarcane plantations were shutting down. And by being able to kind of take over the leases and manage the properties and continue to farm and transition to macadamia nut farming, he was also able to retain and keep a lot of the plantation labor. So Island Harvest provides so much jobs for local families in Kohala that they can still do what they love. And it was really exciting that just recently they were able to purchase their first land and reached out to HILT to partner for an agricultural easement. And so the property, 28 acres, is just around the ravine. So they're just, working on clearing it and doing their first plantings kind of as we speak. And here's where it's located. It's very close to Kohala High School, and so there is the landowners do have a vision to incorporate educational programs, the farming that property here, and having, just because of its location at the bottom of this very small kind of plantation subdivision here, we'll plan to have like one very small, reasonable farm worker housing and like a processing area for their foods. Let's see, and then the next next and last project that we got funding secured for is also in Kohala and Hawaii Island, a little bit more down the road in Niuli'i, towards Pololu Valley. And it's a beautiful, almost 28-acre property. And that's in partnership with, technically Starseed Ranch is the ownership, but it's leased and run by a nonprofit called HIP Ag. Some of you might have heard of HIP Ag and Dash Kerr, who run that organization. They do a lot of farm apprenticeship programs here. This aerial view shows a agroforestry lot that where they grow food and train a lot of their apprentices. And here is the general location that you can see. So the other two ASAP projects were kind of located in this area in Kohala. And actually the Island Harvest property is right here on Mill Road. And then the HIP Ag property is right here in Niuli'i. A beautiful aspect about this Niuli'i or HIP Ag agricultural easement project is you can kind of see in the satellite image to our right here, but there's a stream that runs like right through this area. So, and as well as on the opposite side of the property. So there are ancient lo'i located and that will be protected by this easement, and that HIP Ag, with their recent transition of ownership just a little over a year ago, they definitely have plans, and it's part of their vision to restore those lo'i with the local families of the area. That's all I have for now, and I'm going to just stop sharing real quick if I can see. Figure out how to do that. I apologize.
It's the same box with the X in it. Yeah.
Okay, found it.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are HILT's, all the projects that we were able to get secure funding for. And it's pretty awesome that, sorry, I stopped sharing so that we could all see each other, but I realized I probably shouldn't turn my video back on. But I'll just wrap it up and share that from the just initial community presentations that HILT was able to do with NRCS a few years ago, just sparked interest and word spread really quickly. I found that the different island staff with NRCS also connecting the landowners and partners they work with on the ground and introducing them to HILT has spread the word so fast, and we're just, as a land trust, trying to keep up with the demand to protect ag land through this ASAP tool. So really excited for the 5 projects that we got funded for, and excited for all the potential future applications. And in my very short experience, it's really this success that we look forward to sharing out, to really spreading and sharing more about the opportunity.
All right. So thank you so much, Shay. Really appreciate it. It's really awesome projects, and we're really excited to be doing this. Does anybody have any quick questions for Shay? All right, we're going to move on to our next presentation, and this is by Craig Elevitch and his team, and they're going to be talking about the Agroforestry X tool. And this is a Conservation Innovation Grant. Michael, I don't know if you wanted to say a few words about this project before we turn it over to Craig.
Sure, I can. Yes, so as Susan mentioned, it's a CIG project, and it was an application that came in from Permanent Agriculture Resources, and Dr. Craig Elevitch is with us. And I think earlier I saw also his key partners, Sophia Bowart and Neil Logan, also on the call earlier. So the three of them were key in being a team and putting together a digital design tool. It's a digital tool that allows for design and planning of complex agroforestry systems. And that's important because these kinds of systems really speak to a lot of key objectives and needs that many of us, our partners, have on the island: food production, systems, and community support, and independence that way. And agroforestry systems might have a really important role there, permaculture, things, concepts like that. So anyhow, I won't talk too much longer, but I'm just super thankful for the three of you and your team. I'm mightily impressed by the work you were able to accomplish. I think the others on the call will be as well once you've made your presentation. And thank you also for your patience through some administrative challenges we had. I'm grateful for all of that. With no further, I'll pass the mic over.
Okay. Aloha, everyone. Yeah. Shall I go?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay.
Please,
Thank you for the opportunity to present today. This project has been over 3 years in the works, and this is our final, I believe, deliverable, which is to report back to you folks. And thank you, Michael, for your hand holding and guidance and support, and also Matthew, your patience in moving this forward. I will share my screen.
All right, we have you.
Okay. Okay, great. As both Susan and Michael said, this was a CIG project, and we were tasked with some very specific outcomes. And these were our project goals, which lined up with the call for applications quite well. The first was to produce a data-driven tool for mixed agroforest design, which was the core of the work that we did, and we're going to present that to you. Each of our team, actually, Sophia Bowart and Neil Logan are going to present parts of what we did as well. But the tool for assisting in designing multi-story agroforests was the core of our project. And the second goal was to produce a manual for the design tool. And the third goal was to present the tool and background support in a series of workshops. And that is what we did. It's an online tool that was developed really to assist you folks, NRCS, in the Pacific Islands area in conservation agroforestry planning. But it's, of course, open and available for free to the public. And so we've had both NRCS planners and lots of people from around the world using the tool. It streamlines the planning process, and that Neil's going to show you how streamlined it is in a live demonstration. It provides visualizations for how the agroforest works over time, succession of species, growth of species in a multi-story system. And that might be one of the main impacts on people, to actually see the visualizations both in 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions. And it's available for free to anyone at least through 2024. So our first problem, and you know, this was a great, wonderful process for us in our experience. We've been working in agroforestry for, I've been working for over 30 years, and Neil and Sophia have been working 20 years, was to kind of put together our knowledge together with the resource people and experience of other agroforesters around the world into a system that made agroforestry design relatively streamlined for people. And our main inspiration is the multi-story systems of the Pacific Islands, since the tool was originally conceived for the Pacific Islands. And so this is a kind of a typical multi-story system. This one is in Samoa. It has breadfruit as the main crops, banana, cacao. It has timber trees, coconut, and then understory crops. This was our inspiration, this type of system. And these are documented in the literature that's available on Pacific Island agroforestry. And so we looked at stratification, the different canopy layers of such systems, the patterns that develop, and also the spacing of species, the spacing of plants relative to each other, as well as the diversity of species in the system. So all of those things come into play when designing a multi-story system. And so we have the beginnings of a design through this type of perspective. And we feel that, and this is confirmed by people working in successional agroforestry around the world, that these indigenous systems are very solid models to start from, because they've been around for a long time. The Samoan systems have been around for 3,000 years. And so our tool has a certain workflow that it guides the user through. First, they enter their environmental data. So for a particular project on a particular site, they enter the environmental data, which we use in our species selection engine, as well as in our we provide them lists of species based on the region or the island nation they're in. They have the option to select assistance to meet the NRCS multi-story specification, which is somewhat complex, but the user is given assistance in how to meet the diversity requirements of that and the density requirements of that specification. Then they select a planting configuration, which is all about spacing and putting the different strata together, the different canopy layers together. They select species. They can select numbers of each species to have in their plot and pruning sizes. And then they're presented with the visualizations. Finally, they have a summary report. And Neil is going to run through this quickly in a live demo shortly. And that is the end of my part. Actually, shortly means I'll hand it over to you, Neil.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, this is Neil, and as soon as I can get this going, we will actually bring into focus everything Craig just talked about. Okay, here we go. Can you see the screen? Can you see the home page of the tool?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So here we are, agroforestryx.com. And this is the home page. And from here, you can go and log in. If you need help, you can click on support, which will take you here to this support page where you can download the user's manual, which is a PDF, which looks like this. This can walk you through the use of the tool and most of the different scenarios you'll encounter. And this also goes really well with the video webinar that we put up on YouTube. So between the two, you should have a lot of support if you really want to dive deep into this. So then let's say we'll go to the projects and we want to create a new project, and you can do that. I've already preloaded this so that we can move through this pretty quickly. But here you are at the project details page. This is where you're going to want to select your location and then put in all of your details. And here is where you would click if you would like to meet the NRCS specification or have no restrictions or another. So then from that point, we'll move over to the pattern. You can select your path width and then go through here and find a pattern. If you don't know, you can click on one of these info boxes and more details will pop up to help you make your selection. After that, you'll go to the species selection page, and immediately, if you've selected the NRCS specification, you're greeted with some guidance for how to do this. And you'll want to make sure that you go through and select some species from each time period and stratum, right? So we basically color coded this to make it really easy to map the stratification through time. So then you'll head over to the pruning page, and here you can actually alter your pruning height and diameter as you wish, and your numbers of individuals for each quarter-acre template, as well as the lifespan. So from there, you get into the visualizations. Note that you've got your project details carried with you through this process. Once you get here, you've got the initial planning pattern, and these are all live. You can scroll over them to see who they are. And you've got a 3-year. And take note that you have the percent coverage for each stratum and then a total for all strata combined. And you can monitor this as you go through to maximize your coverage. And then the 10-year. So then from here, we can head over to the animations, and you can run this. We can actually start this over from the beginning, and you'll see this goes all the way through 15 years. You can stop it at any point and move it back in order to really grok specific time periods. And then you can move from there to the 3-dimensional. We can start this over. This also goes through 15 years. You can grab it and rotate it as you see fit in order to hone in on certain aspects. Then from here, you can go to the summary. This has all of the information for your project, summarized in nice, neat tables. And even these templates are still live here. The patterns are live. So you can actually go through it and make sure that this is absolutely what you want. And then if you're happy with it, here you can click on the PDF download or the spreadsheet download. And I'll give you a little example. If you click the PDF, you get something that looks almost identical to the summary that we just looked at. So this makes it very convenient. You can have this print out and go use it as a shopping list. Go to the nursery and say, I need this, this, and this, and you're set. Or you can print the Excel spreadsheet, and now you have a nice starting point if you want to modify this or add more things onto it, number of species in the project, your common names, and all of your pruning dimensions and whatnot. And so how do I go back to the main? Yeah, okay. In any case, that's pretty much it. I hope that you will find this useful and that this will, help you take some of the burden off of your workflow. I know that before having access to this tool, before building it, it would take me usually around 2 weeks per project to kind of, develop something like what we can now do in anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours. And that's all for me. Thank you.
I'm gonna wrap it up. Hi, everyone. I'm gonna wrap it up and share my screen. And we just did a little analysis. Oh, you did? Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Can you see?
Yes.
I just wanted to share. Craig, could you mute yourself? Because there's some background noise, sorry. I just wanted to go over our outreach. We had, including this one, 10 webinar events where we shared and introduced the tool, and we had over 1,000 participants from over 50 countries. And interestingly enough, we had about 1,200 projects that were made since we launched the tool at the end of 2021, and we've had very, very little promotion. So it seems like everyone who's at the webinars basically made a project, more or less, or started the process. And out of the projects, we just did some analysis. About 58% of them were less than a hectare, and 42 were greater. And 65% of those projects were created for outside of the U.S. affiliated Pacific Islands, which is the target territory, and 35% were created within the U.S. affiliated Pacific Islands. The most popular patterns were 1B, 2B, and 5B. B refers to a 15-foot spacing. And there were about 878 views of our webinar on YouTube to date. And that is the summary of our outreach and use of our tool.
Great, that sounds like a fantastic tool. Does anyone have any questions for the team? All right, well, thank you. So this tool is, I guess, Michael, do you have all the links? Maybe we can send that out to the STAC. I think that'd be a really great share. All right.
Yep, it's agroforestryx.com, but I can get you that link if it would help.
Awesome. All right. Any other questions? We're gonna go ahead and move on to Kunhui Wang. Dr. Wang also has a conservation innovation grant project. I don't know if either Chad or Jason would like to provide some background on her project. Or if not, we'll just let her dive in. Okay, Chad.
Yeah, if Jason isn't there, yes. So Dr. Wang's been working on some, management options for soil health, innovative options and approaches for farmers. This one's been very interesting to us, and the use of the cover crops help address some of the soil-borne diseases, and they're looking forward to what she has to share in her final report.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chad. And I will share my screen on this one, so you guys can see it.
Yes.
Can get to the share screen. Okay, so yeah, like Chad said, I will talk about one aspect of using cover crop, and it's focused on suppressing soil-borne disease. And So I put here, this is the NRCS 4 principle of soil health management and reduce disturbance with crop rotation and having living roots and cover the soil all the time. All this we also want to, especially targeting on using cover crop that has a biofumigant properties. So this include brown mustard and oil radish, and so mainly we want to look at, beside all the soil health benefits of cover cropping, we want to emphasize on it can also suppress soil-borne diseases. And so particularly we want to look into use of brassicaceous cover crop, because lots of this cover crop, especially like oil radish, it also have biodrill properties that can improve soil water infiltration, and because they are non-nitrogen fixing plants, so it has potential to nutrient scavenging all the nutrients that might have leached down to the soil. But most importantly, I'm a nematologist in training, so I like to see how we can control nematode using cover crop. These are the plant parasitic nematodes. They are actually good hosts for some plant parasitic nematodes, but because if we terminate them at the right time and they release the allelopathic compound, which turn into a biofumigant, we can trap the nematode inside the roots and then kill them when we terminate them. And so how does the biofumigant work? So this type of brassicaceous cover crop, inside the leaf tissue, they have glucosinolic content, which give us the pungent taste of the mustard. But they usually contain in the cell vacuoles. Unless the tissue are macerated, then there's an enzyme inside the same leaves. It's called myrosinase, will digest the glucosinolic, and it will absorb water, and it will turn it into isothiocyanate, which is a fumigant that have been known to kill plant parasitic nematodes and soil-borne fungi in the soil, along with some other side compound that is released. So how do we make this process effective? We find that it's important to macerate the tissue, otherwise the myrosinase doesn't come in to cause the isothiocyanate to release. So using this knowledge, we want to check if it can reduce root knot nematodes on zucchini and fusarium problem on lettuce. And we also want to try on a long-term crop like banana that also have fusarium problem that cause Panama wilt on a specific variety called pisang awak. And asparagus also have fusarium problem that cause crown and root rot. So for the zucchini trial, we started with the zucchini trial, and we want to see how to improve the biofumigation. So we call this the MTBP process. M is macerated plant tissues, so the enzyme can come into contact with glucosinolate. But most importantly, after maceration, you have to till it into the ground to come in contact with the fungi or nematode that you want to kill. But better yet, you also tarp it with plastic, at least for 1 week, to capture the volatile, which is the glucose, the isothiocyanate that is released, so that they can kill the target pathogen for 1 week. Because they are so volatile, otherwise, if you don't tarp it, it will degrade or go into the air in 6 hours. So we find that when we do all the 3 processes, we can significantly improve the biofumigation effect against the plant parasitic nematode, root knot in this case. And we also use an indicator of the isothiocyanate. Instead of measuring the isothiocyanate, we look at the sulfate, which is also released during this hydrolysis of biofumigation process. We also find that sulfate is increased in the soil, indicating that with all 3 processes take place, the biofumigation is most effective. So having this in mind, we want to know whether this process can compromise soil health, because if it's a fumigant, it might also kill the beneficial organism in the soil. But we find if we just use the Sovita test kit, which indicate the respiration rate of microbial in the soil, we find that this is throughout a zucchini crop that is grown after the brown mustard is terminated. We see actually it result in highest soil respiration rate wherever we have the mustard. Either we cover with black plastic or cover with solarization mulch. We see higher soil microbial respiration than the bare ground treatment. The NP is without the plastic mulch cover. So I also use free-living nematode as a soil health indicator to further check if the biofumigation can compromise soil health. We check the bacteria-feeding nematode and fungal-feeding nematodes. If their number are high, it indicates the soil is either enriched with nutrients due to bacterial decomposition or fungal decomposition is increased. And if the soil are even more structured, then we will have the bigger nematode like the omnivorous and predatory nematodes. So using this as indicator, they are playing important role in the soil food web or soil nutrient cycling by having the fungal feeding nematode or bacterial feeding nematode, which can feed on the bacteria. It will help with decomposition or mineralizations of nutrients from the organic matter into inorganic form for the plant to uptake, and the omnivorous nematode feed on the smaller nematodes, and so more complete nutrient cycle.
Hi, Kunhui.
Yeah.
We're seeing the PowerPoint slides, so it's not changing the slides. You'd have to click on the slide number. Yeah, there you go. All right. That's what we're seeing.
So is it okay just using this? Oh.
Yeah, you can just do that. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. And now the next slide, right? Okay. So by putting all these indexes together, I do a canonical or multivariate analysis. So this is a complicated chart, but if the arrow are pointed in different direction, that means they are negatively correlated. So we find that the RK is the abundance of root knot nematodes. They are in opposite direction from all the soil health indicator. EI means more enrichment index, is an indication of more bacterial feeding nematodes. So the higher the bacterial feeding nematode abundance or predatory nematode abundance, I will have less root knot nematodes. And all these new soil health indicator also correlate with more abundance of the sulfur in the soil, which indicate that more effective biofumigation. And so this chart shows us that the healthier the soil stimulated by the cover crop and biofumigation practice result in less root knot number in the soil. And so to put into perspective for the farmer to see is it worthwhile to spend money on growing the cover crop and also add the plastic tarp to control the plant parasitic nematodes. We find that if we grow a zucchini crop in a field that are highly infested by root knot nematode, we would have increased 20% of yield of zucchini if we use a solarization mulch following the biofumigation, or we can increase 26% of the yield if we use a black plastic mulch compared to the background treatment. So even though, so the yield loss would have been this amount, so which is quite big when the root knot infestation is high. And so this is just some number we share with the farmer to indicate that it's worth the efforts to put in this cover crop and solarization or black plastic mulch. Now we move on to look at another problematic fungal disease pointed out by some of our collaborative farmers. They really hate the fusarium or also rhizotonia sometime in the soil, and they keep on fumigating with Vapan, and they say sometimes it doesn't work consistently anymore. So we compare the control is the background treatment, and then we have mustard alone. The farmer doesn't like to grow the mustard directly in their field because it also attracts some insect that is problematic with their lettuce plants. So we introduce the mustard that we grow and we macerate it, and then we cover with, so I'm not sure if I can, if I do this, can you still see it?
We're just seeing the slide, but yeah, the slide with the picture and then the graph.
Oh, okay. So some of the picture that is on animation, I couldn't show if I use this mode, but it's okay. So main thing is we also find that if we just do the mustard and do the biofumigation without adding water to the soil, we don't have that good effect of control on the fusarium. In part, this is because during the biofumigation process, it needs water to release more isothiocyanate. So if we saturate the soil to 40% soil moisture, we significantly increase the lettuce yield. So by 5-fold compared to the control. So I meant to skip this 3 slide and get to the economic comparison. If we use brown mustard, so this is total cost per acre if we have to do brown mustard and then cover with solarization mulch. And with the profit of lettuce at 32,000, if everything is in ideal condition, spending $800 or $850 to control this soil-borne disease is well worth the effort. Otherwise, I can see some farmers totally have the complete yield loss from their lettuce field. So the next disease is fusarium wilt on Pisang awak banana is the one that is suffering the most from this disease. And so like apple banana, they now it's become the dominant crop, banana crop in Hawaii, in part because it is resistant to the Panama wilt. But if some farmers still like to grow a specialty variety like Pisang awak, they are suffering from loss of Panama wilt problem. So we want to see if we can use this in an established banana field. So of course we can't incorporate into the soil and then tarp with black plastic. So we still try to put the mustard surrounding the crop root system, and then the farmer come in and drench with water to wash the compound from the mustard down. But we also compare that to other organic amendments like lobster meal, or more, I think it's sold as crustacean meal. And so actinovate is another biological fungicide. Subtilis is a Bacillus subtilis. And then we also compare to shrimp shell meal and vermicompost tea drenching and compare with water control. And so this is the rating of the disease after the banana plant had been treated for 2 months. We find that okay, the lowest one is with the mustard. So the number of leaves that build is the less when we use the mustard drenching. But in terms of we subsample the roots from the banana and do plating to check for the fusarium colonization. The lobster or the crustacean meal treated tree has almost no colonization of the fusarium on our selective media, and so this is promising. On the other hand, if we look at soil health properties, we see that the mustard also can reduce the reniform nematode significantly, and the crustacean meal can increase a lot of bacteria feeding nematode, indicating more bacterial decomposition, whereas the vermicompost tea, it can increase the more structure soil food web, which is the omnivorous nematodes will increase. So eventually we kind of tell the farmer that maybe you should mix different cocktail mix together, combining the lobster meal with water, and then also add the mustard if you want to suppress the fusarium, as well as drenching vermicompost tea if you want the more structure beneficial nematodes to present in the soil. So I think among the 3 diseases I mentioned so far, the effect on using mustard on banana fusarium wilt is the poorest, but nonetheless, it doesn't cost them too much to add into their practice, just to suppress the other nematodes like plant parasitic nematodes. But adding lobster to help suppress the fusarium wilt can also further improve the soil organic amendment treatment to improve the soil health in Panama wilt infested soil. So I have one more disease that we also checked during this study, fusarium wilt on asparagus, cause crown and root rot. So the plants will look like this. The plant doesn't die back, but it will significantly turn a lot of yellowing in the field. And so again, we compare several other biological stimulants that is also tested in the banana field, and we conduct 2 trials. And because this time the mustard can be incorporated into the soil, so we again see a good suppression of the disease by brown mustard. So we checked that multiple times throughout 1 year. The other treatments are not so effective against the fungal disease. But overall, when we put all the soil health measurements together and also compare to the disease rating of the fusarium, we find an opposite trend of the higher the disease incidence is, the better the soil health condition is, which is indicated by high enrichment index and high structure index. You will have less disease wilting symptom on the asparagus. We repeat the trial again in the 2nd year. We again see the mustard reduce reniform nematodes, although their effect on root knot was not apparent. Overall plant parasitic nematode was lowest with the mustard treatment. And same trend here, the more disease, the disease incidence is opposite trend from fungal and bacterial feeding nematodes population, though we are not sure why the Sovita test was positively correlated with the disease incidence. So overall, throughout the 11 months of the study in asparagus, the fusarium colonization will negatively correlate with enrichment and structure index, indicating the healthier the soil, you can reduce the soil-borne disease. Similar trend was observed in trial 2, although trial 2 was still in progress. So we conclude that enhancement of soil health can reduce the fusarium crown and root rot, and the cost is also listed here. So this is a long-term crop, and it's hard to implement this in a long-term crop, a permanent asparagus field, because the second treatment we have to do like every 3 months, and it's hard to retreat the field when so much asparagus was growing, and the farmer also used plastic mulch. Nonetheless, overall summary is the brown mustard with 40% of soil moisture and solarization mulch, we can reduce the fusarium and rhizoctonia wilt on lettuce. We also find that in the long-term crop for the banana, we can't suppress the fusarium as effective because we can't incorporate mustard into the ground, but adding crustacean meal into the ground can improve the suppression of the fusarium wilt and also improve soil nutrient cycling. Integrating brown mustard with black plastic and biofumigation and amending the soil with lobster meal will reduce asparagus, crown and root rot and suppress root knot nematodes and thus overall improve the soil nutrient cycling. And then, so yeah, this is all I have to share. And again, I'd like to thank NRCS for supporting this project. And here are the people that work with us. And Kahuku Farm, Owen Kanishiro Farm, and Twin Bridge Farm are our big supporter. So,
Right, thank you so much, Dr. Wang. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Wang? So we're right up at the top of the hour. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this shares. I want to thank Shay, Craig, Neil, Sophia, and Hui for their presentations. I do want to just quickly just give a few reminders. One is our NRCS 2022 Soil Planner is now available, and if you would like a copy, if you email me your mailing address by Friday the 14th, we'll do the mailing of those calendars. So if you like one, go ahead and send me your email or your snail mail address, and we'll get those out to you. And then also just a reminder that our February meeting is on the 8th of February at 1 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. So that'll be for those folks in Guam and Saipan. It'll be on the 9th, but I'll be sending that notice out shortly. And then also just a heads up that the RCPP grant offering should be coming out within the next week or so. And the PIA Conservation Innovation Grant and competitive grants should be out by mid-February. So just keep an eye out, and I'll be sending other funding opportunities as they come across my desk to y'all. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a great new year, and thank you, everybody.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.